Before we get to the episode, I just wanted to apologize. The beginning of this episode, we had a little bit of audio problems, and most specifically with my microphone, I had to use a slightly different setup through the first crime, and it doesn't sound quite as good, so I apologize for that. But towards the end, we were able to get it all worked out, and everything's great. But yeah, enjoy the episode. Thank you for listening. In the wrestling world, the people are represented by two separate but unequally important groups. The wrestlers and bookers, who literally do all the hard work, and the fans, who endlessly nitpick and overanalyze everything they do. These are their stories. Welcome to Raw and Order, the wrestling booking unit, the only wrestling podcast on the planet that just changed recording schedules from Thursday to Sunday for, I don't know, reasons.
Really, absolutely no reason.
Yeah, reasons. I don't know, something. I am Detective Marks, and I'm joined as always by my partner in crime fighting, District Attorney Vincent K. Fabe. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing swell. Having a little bit of the bubbly. I want to order it, but I don't.
Yeah, apparently they've got like more than 10,000 already.
It crashed the server the first night. Crashed the server.
It's crazy. Also making his, I don't know, I guess 78th appearance, something like that. Host of Real Talk Radio, Justin Leblanc. What's up, brother?
Hello. 78th is a bit over exaggeration, but it's been certainly quite a few times. Certainly, yeah.
I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 78, something like that.
There we go. Yeah, it's almost there. It's a remix version of counting. It's fine. I'll accept.
Kind of feels like a Nebraska education, as to say.
Okay. Just for anyone who's new on this podcast, we go over the air quotes crimes in professional wrestling, and we try to keep it a little positive. We don't like to focus too much on the negative. Otherwise, every podcast would be about Bobby Lashley and Rusev right now, and we don't want to do that. So most of these crimes will actually be the crime of doing something right, or at least something that we enjoy. I think I started last week, so if DA Fabe wants to go first, we will go ahead and get started with crime number 1.
I don't really want to steal, this is the first time Justin's done a Wrestle Crimes, a WBU with us.
I don't believe that's true, technically. I think
WBU?
I think he did one a couple weeks ago, but it was kind of short notice, so he wasn't 100% familiar with the concept. So
okay, I just wanted to make sure, because otherwise I'd be stealing his thunder, and because there's a chance that I could be going after a crime he wanted to go after.
Crime number 1.
I am still gonna. Well, I'm actually gonna go negative to start off, but it's in a really cool way, and that is to go after AEW. Yes, that's right. I have a negative one for AEW.
Hey.
Yeah, I know it's tough to do. For being unprepared for their amount of following they would have for a little bit of the bubbly. Because, quite frankly, they should have known their product is over enough that when it went on sale, people were going to go buy it. That's not a horrible crime. That's awesome that they've got that level of following this quickly. But come on, man. How are you going to let your website crash?
Yeah, I get it. In conjunction with that, Pro Wrestling Tees, the pissant t-shirt company that they use for their merchandise, also apparently crashed during Black Friday weekend due to demand, and has since they posted a thing saying that they're gonna take some downtime so that they can complete all the orders, hopefully before the postal service cutoff for Christmas. And that really doesn't give you a lot of confidence that you're gonna get that Young Bucks T-shirt in time for Christmas to be ordered, right?
Well,
hopefully in time.
Young Bucks T-shirt that I ordered.
I'm just throwing it out there to the potential listener who might have ordered a Young Bucks T-shirt for somebody.
Oh, okay. Either brand, my T-shirt's a KO T-shirt.
Straight up.
Yeah, that'd be the way to go. The Omega shirts are pretty phenomenal. The Moxley shirts are great. The Joey Janela shirts are great. So, but just the fact that they post this notice saying that we're gonna take the site down for a while and focus on, and they use just so that we're just a small company, we don't have thousands of employees. But I said, you are the official merchandise supplier for a major wrestling promotion in America. You need to get more employees. That's just
and equipment.
The way it's, and equipment and all the setup. But
the other thing is some of their tees, and this I absolutely love. One of the things we talked about in the past. Now again, I realize the crime is unpreparedness, but I love that their tees don't have to be obviously pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. I love that you can carry those in a, Young Bucks as a name you can wear in public, and you don't have to worry about people like, oh, that weirdo's wearing a John Cena shirt, just a shirt that said awesome for The Miz would be great, but no, it has to say The Miz on it. It just kind of
now I'm going to interject right now because I am right now currently wearing a Finn Balor t-shirt, and I will point out that on the front of it just simply has the B, Balor B on it, and nothing else. And I don't see anywhere from the front that it even says WWE or anything like that. So some of your designs, on the back it does, but I'm almost always wearing a jacket anyway, so.
Okay.
So at least from the front, the shirts aren't too bad. Sometimes.
Yes. I will agree with that. Anyway.
So is that you technically saying that you're ashamed to be a wrestling fan? So you're kind of happy it doesn't show anything in the front?
No, it's not that I was ashamed. It really just comes down to
you're ashamed.
I'm fine with I'll wear my my shirt for my favorite pro football team on it, but I don't like it having the NFL logo. You know what I mean? Here's the deal: is I'm proud to be a fan of a wrestler, not a fan of a specific promotion, and I think that's kind of what it comes down to. The WWE ones so often, and I get what DA Fabe's kind of getting at here. The WWE ones so often really go hardcore on. We have to show you that we are the brand WWE, not just hey, let's you know what I mean? I guess, and that's why the AEW shirts work so well because
My big thing is a lot of that stuff should be able to stand alone, and it does. So much stuff stands alone, and so it makes it really cool. I've actually had customers or clients come into the DA's office for a plea bargain. Anyway, I've had people that I've met that were wearing a shirt, and if I could just see your Balor shirt, just see the Balor B in the front, I was like, oh, hey, and I'd be able to talk to them about it. But it also allows them that discretion, the overall customer base, the discretion to wear that in public and just enjoy the fact that there's this really great line, whether it's awesome or rated R superstar or, all of the different things that a person can wear, especially those catchphrases that are so wonderful. The KO show,
and
just KO.
And some of it might simply come down to I prefer the people who I'm gonna go back. I prefer the people I meet who recognize me as a wrestling fan to be recognizing me as a current wrestling fan of a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I don't want someone walking down the street seeing me and going like, "Oh, hey, John Cena, man, I like John Cena." Just because he sees WWE on it, right? You know, or oh man, yeah, I really liked it when when they did that Hell in a Cell match back in 2001.
That's exactly why I don't like wearing them when I'm actually going to a wrestling show, though, because I know that there's so many wrestling fans there, obviously, and I just want to know if I'm
okay.
Wrestling, because wrestling fans are very, very unique, to say the least. Some of them are, you know. So some wrestling fans I'm embarrassed by, so therefore I won't wear the wrestling shirt, so those embarrassing wrestling fans don't notice me. I know, very evil.
No, that's legit though. However, I think we had a server issue.
Yeah, I think we had a server issue because I couldn't hardly hear half of what you did.
Yeah.
Oh, both of you did?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Skype hates you.
Okay, so long story short, basically I would not wear a wrestling shirt. I'm embarrassed to wear a wrestling shirt at the actual wrestling show itself because I am embarrassed by some of the wrestling fans that are there. And as you alluded to, Officer Smarks, I don't want to get into that conversation of, oh, hey, you like this guy, so do I. Like, no, I'm there to watch a show. I'm with hopefully some friends. I don't think I'd go to a wrestling show alone. So I'm with some friends and I'm enjoying the show, and I will purposely not wear a wrestling.
Yeah. I also deeply, and I mean deeply, disdain the pay-per-view shirts, the WrestleMania shirts, the Survivor Series thus and such year shirts. I don't know why. I don't feel like that's an enjoyable shirt to have.
Agreed.
So it's different. At that pay-per-view, it makes sense. You're gonna get it. It's to commemorate you going to that show.
Yep. But there's really no definition of that pay-per-view, you know, other than maybe, oh, so you were at the really crappy one where Bray Wyatt lost. Okay. That's the equivalent of what I can enjoy out of those. But either way, the crime we're talking about is unpreparedness, and so pretty cool segue into an overall conversation.
Yes.
Nope. Very valid.
Yes,
and fun fact, little bit of the bubbly, if you want 2 bottles, ladies and gentlemen, it'll only cost you a little bit over $46.
Yeah,
you bought
quite
some?
reasonable.
No, I did not buy any. I'm Canadian, so that $46 is probably going to be like $58.
$2 million.
Not quite that high. No, that's a bit too much there. A bit over exaggeration again with the 75 episodes and now the 2 million.
I don't know how to count.
Nope, that's what it boils down to. But a little bit, honestly, guys, though, I get it. Why not? People are probably buying it just to kind of keep it and to say that they have it. I imagine it's going to taste like how champagne tastes, which is garbage in my opinion. It's only good to pop at a wedding. I don't know. I'm clearly not a champagne fan.
No, you're right there. The simple fact is people are buying it as a collector's issue, not a drink.
Right.
The vast majority of them are probably never going to be opened, and probably going to be taken to like signings and stuff like that just to get Chris Jericho's signature on it.
I'd be so scared I'd break it if I brought that with me and I'm waiting in line. Oh Jesus.
Yeah. It'd be a risk there, but that's just what I see most of people buying it for. There's going to be the odd person who's like, hey, I'm going to buy it so that I can, drink it and pop it at my wedding or whatever.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Now, in a related to the little bit of the bubbly thing, have you seen the meme going around on the internet where people have taken the Sammy Guevara, Chris Jericho life-size cutout and started photoshopping it into all sorts of other places?
Yeah, I'm looking into a few ways to do that myself, and hopefully Jericho will post them.
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining. He's at the foot of the Eiffel Tower or standing on top of Mount Rushmore. Just all over the place. It's quite hilarious.
Anyway.
Genius once again. Everything Jericho seems to be doing in AEW, though, becomes a meme. a little bit of the bubbly.
Everything Jericho does is genius. If you've listened to his podcast, I mean, he managed to get mainstream coverage, absolute mainstream coverage, by interviewing Donald Trump Jr. on his podcast. Whether you like the idea that he did that or not doesn't matter. He got total mainstream coverage from interviewing Donald Trump Jr.
I'm still shocked that Donald Trump Jr. agreed to that.
Well, I mean, Trump's been in pro wrestling, so it's great.
But it's the wrong wrestling federation.
Yeah. Also Chris Jericho, who's kind of transcended what individual group he has to be in.
Well, yeah. And in the grand scheme of things, to go back to kind of what you said, Chris Jericho has made a entire career out of turning pretty much everything into meme worthy. You know, the only reason more stuff like it didn't come up as meme worthy during his WWE run was probably Vincent McMahon, to be perfectly honest. The control power that Vince McMahon has in WWE probably led to a lot of things that Jericho pitched being turned down. I mean, he was one of the few people that WWE would allow an open mic occasionally, but they also still controlled what he did a lot. And I just saw an article or a web video or something like that about the Festival of Friendship and how that almost did not happen because Vince McMahon turned it down and wanted it to just be a standard heel turn without all of that stuff. And Chris Jericho had to fight and work hard to get the Festival of Friendship to happen, which turned out to be one of the best things to happen between that year. You know, so
well, remember he tried to do the cruise with WWE, and the cruise was a resounding success.
Yep, second one takes off next month sometime.
Bash at the beach, and WWE even tried to stop that from happening. Like, Vince is such a party pooper, man.
We own the rights to that. Actually, no.
Well, and they're going to argue that even though they let the trademark lapse, that, they still should have had first go at it, or something like that. It's going to go to court. It's going to go back and forth. I don't see any reason. And I'm not the lawyer here, but as far as I can see, I don't see any reason AEW is not going to get the rights to that eventually. I think WWE is really more playing a game right now of if we can sue them, maybe we can stop them from using it this time because they'll still be in court. The court will say don't use it until everything's figured out. But I mean, the simple fact is
all they're going to do is change Bash on the boat. I mean, let's be honest about it.
Well, I mean, the simple fact is the closest thing that WWE can argue is that they do own a trademark for the Bash. That's it, the Bash. And they'll try to argue that that was all they need to effectively also have trademark for Bash at the Beach. But I don't think it's going to happen. Anyways, back to your crime of not being prepared. I agree they should have been more prepared with better servers and all that. However, I will give them at least a little bit of slack because the company that they partnered with for the wine, and who knows, maybe they approached other companies and were turned down. The one that they ended up partnering with is a pretty small company. And maybe that company in and of itself just wasn't prepared. And it was a little bit out of AEW's hands, maybe.
So probably going to end up opening up a plea bargain with them if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal is we just need more information on it. I think charges can be filed.
Yeah, we'll probably go that route then.
Agreed. If anyone in the jury knows any more information on this or has an opinion one way or another, shoot us a tweet at RawandOrderWBU or at DA Vincent K. Fabe. Let us know.
And since it was my crime, just tweet me. It's all right. Gives me something at Lexi Kaufman. So hot, want to touch the hiney.
And on that note, we will move on to crime number 2.
Crime number 2.
So, crime number 2 is going to be one that I feel the WWE has. It's not even official yet, and it might not even be, but Kane, the fact that Kane had to mention to TMZ that he should be in the Hall of Fame and kind of made it as a joke. And now everybody is talking about it. But Kane being in the Hall of Fame, it's not a crime on Kane's part, but it's a crime on WWE for not having done this already. Like, 24 years the man has been in the business, since 1995, and he's wrestled full-time, maybe last time he's wrestled full-time was, let's say, 5 years ago. It is a crime, it is a travesty that you have not given the man his due after putting in so many years into the company and still not even have been confirmed, but has been put out there by Mr. Glenn Jacobs himself, the mayor of Knoxville, that he should be WWE inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame for 2020. I see the vision, folks, and that, good sir, WWE, you have committed, I don't know the word, the legal term, but you've committed a very, very injustice. And that's
now in fairness, he was still technically an active wrestler until just over a year ago, I think, right before the actual election. He was still technically active, so...
No, we're not counting Crown Jewel. We're not counting Crown Jewel when he did that little match. We're not counting the once or twice that he played throughout that year on SmackDown or something.
No, I agree. My point is, he was still, like, on WWE.com listed on the active roster, not as an alumni until recently. And I'm playing semantics here, but I can already see that this would be WWE's argument that he hadn't retired from wrestling until too late to be in last year's Hall of Fame, so I wouldn't be surprised if they put him in this year's Hall of Fame.
You know, here's my thing. His air quotes brother retired several years ago, has mostly one-offs, and he isn't a Hall of Famer yet. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the Phenom outranks the Big Red Machine in terms of induction rate. So, little brother, sorry, you can wait for the Phenom.
I will also agree with that. However, also in the same argument is that Undertaker still hasn't officially retired.
Yeah. And Vince, I feel, will never retire the Undertaker because Vince will use him until his dying day. I swear.
I don't know. That Stone Cold podcast that he did really came across like I'm ready to get. I'm so done. Did you watch?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
Oh, best line from the promos. The actual podcast is a lot better ones, but the best line from the promos. I seriously thought I was going to be Eggman. I thought I was going to be Eggman. And I was like, what? This is legit. This is Mark Calloway doing an interview, not The Undertaker. And it was really good. Really good. Because, dude doesn't break kayfabe. Ever.
Right. Which is why I'm shocked that Vince allowed it to happen. He wasn't in Undertaker gear. He completely broke kayfabe. And they had a pretty lengthy conversation. It was about like an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was a pretty long podcast as a whole.
For some reason, the WWE Network wasn't working properly. It kept on freezing. So I'm definitely going to have to watch it, though. It's pretty interesting. But yeah.
Kane last wrestled on Not Talking Crown Jewel, but he wrestled for the SmackDown Tag Championships at Extreme Rules 2018. He had wrestled the week before on SmackDown, and then a week before that on SmackDown, because he was part of Team Hell No again, And then it was a few months in between there, but I think that would be WWE's argument, is that, literally he hasn't even been retired for a year. And that's not even counting his comeback and winning the 24/7 championship, because that was Glenn Jacobs who won that, not Kane.
Oh, you're Mr. Semantics today, huh? Mr. Can't Count / Mr. Semantics is in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you got to know how to do something right.
This is true.
Sometimes, I guess. I don't know.
Bad with numbers, but great with words. Mr. Officer Smarks.
But that would be my...
Justin, I feel like you're finally starting to meet Officer Smarks. I really do. This has been this way for years. I mean, years.
Yeah, my famous catchphrase is, well, to play devil's advocate.
You've literally never said that catchphrase ever in your life.
I say it a lot. My wife hates it. She really does. Because she'll go up on some rant about how, we should cut rapist wieners off or whatever, and I'll be like, well, to play devil's advocate, we really can't do that because it, is cruel and unusual punishment. She's
and
like,
where do we draw the line? If we do it to rapists, what else should we do it to? Why do the rapists only get their penis cut off? It'd be a whole thing. We're not going to get into that, though. This is about wrestling and not rape.
Yes, and we would like to keep our rape out of wrestling.
Yes.
Unless so much terms to go
when you're going
politics there, not rape.
Anyways, no, I was just pointing it out from a standpoint of that would be at least the defense argument from WWE is that, hey, he's been retired for less than a year. We haven't even had a WrestleMania since he's been retired. So,
I think that was more of a lobbying joke type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, however, but I sense some seriousness into it too. Like, come on.
Dude's a Hall of Famer. I mean, it's gonna happen. That would be the injustice, as if it never happened.
No, you know what would be the injustice? If they both don't get inducted, but then they both get inducted as the Brother of Destruction.
That would be garbage.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I feel like Vince would do, because Vince does really crappy storylines, and he'd be like, you know what? No, you both are too big. Or no, he definitely have Undertaker as like the main Hall of Fame guy for sure. Yeah. But like, I could see him doing, you know what, both of you, Brother of Destruction. Yeah.
In fairness, I feel like they will both get in once they're retired, but I also feel like, and not to be too morbid, but whenever the first one of them kicks the bucket, there will be a posthumous Brothers of Destruction induction as well, so that they will also be two-time Hall of Famers.
So, side note, what did Booker do to be a two-time Hall of Famer?
The Spinaroonie.
The Spinaroonie's in the Hall of Fame?
No, he's in it as himself and then as Harlem Heat.
Oh.
So
that's
the real thing is how, and don't get me wrong, I love Harlem Heat, and they were very entertaining, especially when I was watching relatively early WCW before the NWO and everything. They were one of the better things going on in there. But in reality, like, Stevie Ray never wrestled in WWE or WWF for that matter. And so for them to put Harlem Heat into the WWE Hall of Fame is a little bit of a stretch in my book. And maybe it's just another part of semantics, but because it's the WWE Hall of Fame and not like an independent pro wrestling Hall of Fame, that's part of where it kind of comes to me. But yeah, that's how Booker T's in there twice, once for himself and once for Harlem.
So Booker T is the second ever two-time Hall of Fame inductee behind Ric Flair.
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, and Shawn Michaels.
Well, yeah. Because Shawn Michaels in himself and in as part of DX.
Did that happen before Booker?
Well, it happened on the same night, technically.
Yeah, same night. They were both the same night. DX and Harlem Heat on the same night.
So technically, Booker happened first, if we want to play semantics, right, Officer Smarks?
I mean, I'd have to check the exact timeline of it, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think DX, Harlem Heat went first and DX went later.
For sure, DX was last, yeah.
So DFA was right. Booker T was the second two-time Hall of Famer for a short period of time before then there was the third.
Like, I don't know why that bothers me, but that bothers me. Like, legit bothers me.
It's the same night though.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you're gonna bitch and moan over an hour?
No, I'm gonna bitch and moan over the fact that there were so many other people you could have be the second two-time. I mean, yeah, they got it right with the first one. They absolutely got it right with it being what's his name? Ric Flair. But you're gonna put Booker on the same level as Ric Flair?
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, they're probably eventually gonna kind of just hit everyone who is in some sort of stable to be in it. That, you know, eventually Sting will be in as part of NWO Wolfpack, and then they'll induct the Four Horsemen again, including all of them. So Sting will be a 3-timer in it.
So you're telling me Triple H is going to be inducted 17 times?
Most likely, yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley,
Triple H,
Rising.
Yeah, they'll probably hit him for terrorizing. And then Jean-Paul Levesque.
And then we got to go with DX. We got to go with Evolution.
Evolution.
Wasn't he part of the corporation at one point?
He might have been. I don't think he was. But you know, that's another one for Undertaker.
Yeah.
Corporate Ministry.
Yeah.
They should just put in the Brood. Is the Brood in already? I think the Brood is in already.
No, I don't think they are, because Edge and Christian aren't listed as 2-time Hall of Famer.
Snap, they should definitely do the Brood then.
Yeah, so they should go in.
God.
And then we just, you know that the Brood is in there, which
is really the only way you put Gangrel in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Gangrel can start advertising all its independent booking dates. WWE Hall of Famer Gangrel.
Hey, you'd make more money.
And then, I mean, since they're just doing, WCW acts, they could put the West Texas Rednecks in there. So Kurt Hennig could posthumously be a 2-time Hall of Famer. Kendall Windham.
Good Lord.
I'm actually now really excited to see what the inductee list is going to be for this year's Hall of Fame.
I think WWE is going to pull out all the stops, because that's going to be a little bit early, but still around the 1-year AEW anniversary sort of a thing. And they're going to try to do everything they can to get the focus back on them, so it's not. And AEW admittedly has said they're not planning on doing anything that weekend. And so they're staying clear of WrestleMania weekend and all of that. But I just feel like WWE is going to be like, look at us. We're putting The Rock in, and Batista, and who else can we induct? I don't know. We're going to put Hogan in again. Miss for America.
Well, is NWO already in? No.
I don't believe so.
No, they're not.
So NWO's eventually got to go in at some point. The problem is, I feel like they've already been in, because we've always seen Nash and Hall and Shawn Michaels there. So we've always seen the clique. Oh, pardon the pun. We've always seen the whole crew together in that regard. So Nash will be a second time once NWO goes in. So will Scott. So will Hogan. No?
I don't think Nash is in yet.
I feel like I don't know. Maybe not. I feel like he never did a speech.
I think he was part of Scott Hall's induction, but I don't think Nash is in.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I thought Scott Hall was in, but not Nash. But we'll go and find the old Wikipedia page.
It says literally WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash.
Okay, so he must be in.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, he was in.
Just as himself, or was it as a part of like NWO? At which point?
No, just as himself. No, but NWO, there was no NWO for sure though.
Okay.
Kevin Nash was in it. It's weird. I feel like... Okay, I should probably stop looking at Google Images, because it's giving me a whole bunch of different things. But WWE Hall of Fame gets a dose of diesel power as Kevin Nash is inducted into the illustrious ranks for the final induction of the 2015 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. Shawn Michaels takes the stage to introduce Big Sexy Kevin Nash. So it was inducted in 2015.
Ooh, Glenn Jacobs could be in 3 times, because he could be in for Fake Diesel.
Oh, he was Fake Diesel?
Yeah, he was.
Hey, let's be honest about this. He could also be Dr. Isaac Yankem.
Yeah, just keep throwing him in.
And Britt Baker should introduce him, because she's already been on WWE television like twice. So why not put her as a person to induct Isaac Yankem into the Hall of Fame. Genius writing right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Dr. Britt Baker putting in Dr. Isaac Yankem.
You can't write this stuff up, folks. You just can't.
No, sure can.
No, seriously, please. You can't.
No, you can't write it. I am issuing an injunction to stop you from writing it.
We have trademarked this because it's that bad.
So that's so I guess you really
I think
devil's
you're
advocate there.
if he doesn't go in the next 3 years.
3 years. Golly. Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, if they didn't put Kane in this next year. I mean, he's effectively retired now that he's mayor of a county.
But he won the 24-hour championship when he was mayor of a county. So
yeah, and then lost later that day. So
hey, he was still a champion.
I don't count it.
Tell that to R-Truth, damn it! How dare you?
I will tell R-Truth whatever I want. R-Truth, please don't kill.
Oh, you're done. That's it. So that's pretty much how the cookie crumbles on that one. I'm curious to hear about your crime of the evening, Mr. Smarks.
Oh, my crime for crime number 3 is... I'm going to break in here really quickly to talk about our sponsor. I know you've heard me mention Anchor.fm before. It's by far the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain really quickly. It's free. You don't have to have any experience in advance to do it. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. They're going to distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, many other more, Google Podcasts, pretty much any place you can look for a podcast. And you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So what are you waiting for? Go download the free Anchor app on the App Store or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Crime number 3.
Also charging WWE. Wow, this is going all in on them today, I guess. But they are charged with putting together 2 solid weeks of good wrestling TV as long as you skipped Raw.
Amen. Oh my goodness.
Because like the go home NXT last week was really, really good. Going home for TakeOver. Mm-hmm. The go home SmackDown was great. TakeOver and Survivor Series were both good, right? They had their issues, but we both enjoyed both of them, right? NXT after TakeOver was really good. SmackDown was watchable.
Was it?
But
well, I mean,
it was just a whole lot of Daniel Bryan and Muscle Man.
I don't know. You go in comparison to what we got, I don't know, 4 days earlier. I'm gonna say it was watchable.
I didn't say it was great, but watchable. It was solid. You know, I mean, it was at least the Bray Wyatt / Fiend new belt thing. I wish they would have just introduced that belt instead of the blue belt.
Yeah, so what's the point of the blue one? Now it just doesn't make any sense. Or I guess once the Fiend, if ever he loses it, the blue belt will be the new belt. But yeah, they should have just announced the Fiend belt to begin with and not have given the blue belt any knowledge yet. Acknowledgement.
In related to DA Fabe's crime, I can tell you that shop.wwe.com is definitely prepared for the demand for the $6,500 that people would have to pay to get their replica of that belt.
$6,500.
Fiend one or the
Fiend one, the skin one, the replica they have there.
That is
$6,500.
Made with real human skin, folks.
Apparently, I don't know. And unicorn hair. Fairy snot. I don't know.
Fairy snot. Who does the WWE think is gonna buy this belt? Like, are you kidding me?
I can guarantee you they're not gonna get enough demand to crash a server with that price. That's for certain.
Sure, that's ridiculous.
Holy cow! It's got to be real leather though. So it is real skin of some type.
I mean, it was handcrafted. The original, not the replica, but the original was handcrafted by the Tom Savini horror studio, the same people who made Bray Wyatt's mask for the Fiend.
And also make the masks for Slipknot.
Yeah, Slipknot masks, and of course they're well known for their horror movie special effects. So I mean, it's a big deal, but $6,500, you can literally buy a fairly decent car for that much.
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking a Ferrari, but like a 1998 Toyota Camry.
You could buy 4 1998 Toyota Camrys. You realize that's 21 years ago, right?
No, I don't.
He's not good with numbers, remember?
Is that the way time works? I'm one of those people, when someone says 10 years ago, I still think like 1989. And someone says
That's
no.
fair.
No.
That's fair.
Like, what do you mean? 10 years ago? What? No.
Hey, Smarts,
I'm not.
10 years ago when you were hard on the force and you had your first case with the... What? No, that was like 4 weeks ago.
I don't know what you're talking. No, but so I mean, just like the NXT before TakeOver was just phenomenal. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. And
even
then
the
of course,
NXT afterwards was amazing.
Yeah, the NXT afterwards. SmackDown before Survivor Series was great. TakeOver and Survivor Series were both great. The NXT after was good. SmackDown was watchable, but the linchpin in all of those is just that stupid thing called Raw.
Yeah.
And it just drags everything down. Now,
Hey,
a related
we had the Bobby Lashley and Lana storyline continue, and poor Bobby Lashley got hurt.
Poor Bobby. Now, that was a related crime that I was going to bring up later, but I'm also charging whoever put that, I don't know what it's called, a strut or truss up that Rusev kicked over onto Bobby Lashley. They need to be charged with something, because that thing wasn't even bolted down or anything.
Right.
I mean, that was a really dangerous truss to even put up there. Like, it wasn't bolted down.
It really
just
didn't
kind
have a purpose of being there based on
No,
where it was.
It doesn't at all, and that was a death trap waiting to happen.
Side note, misdemeanor of an accomplice on this, and I don't usually do this to other podcasters, but I feel like there's a group of podcasters who have transcended this level of podcasting that we're on. And so, Ollie, no, WWE did not do better with the Rusev and Lana story. It's still garbage. Don't change your mind on this, Ollie Davis. That's all I have.
Stay firm. Stay strong, Ollie. But yeah, so I mean, I just, like, all in all, it was a good 2 weeks for WWE wrestling, as long as you just ignore Raw, which, frankly, I'm debating on just doing from now on. Like, I got other things I can do Monday nights. You guys can watch Raw and just fill me in later, right? That would work.
No.
No?
No, it wouldn't. No.
No, it wouldn't. Sure?
No. I'm pretty positive.
I suppose. Is that the only way you're gonna hear about Raw?
I mean, I could maybe Reboilers.
Yep, just do
Fine,
what everyone
I'll
else
watch
does. No, don't watch it. Just watch the highlights. Honestly, even the highlights are bad. So at least you only spend like 10 minutes watching Raw of its purified greatness within those 10 minutes, which really only 2 of those 10 minutes are actually good. So you'll be good. I think you'll be good with the highlight video that they put up after Raw is done. I forget what that guy's name is, but he's always on point, but then he gets his videos kicked down afterwards. Definitely do that. Highlight reel it up, because that's the only way Raw is watchable, folks.
Yeah, I could
watch Simon
you could
Miller's
just up those downs and go. Yeah, just up those downs, Simon Miller style.
Now,
maybe I'll just do that. I don't know. Or maybe I'll just watch it. Now, inside note, I do want to say to anyone out there who thinks there's even a chance now that Rusev is going to leave WWE and go to AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor or whatever, reportedly...
With his actual wife signing a multi-million-dollar, multi-year
5-year deal. Yeah, he's signing. He hasn't signed yet, but he wouldn't have let her, and I say let her, but she wouldn't have signed if there wasn't a really, really pretty solid chance they're going to sign again. and that's a shame because he is better than WWE has let him be. But
unless they think that they're going to be able to pull off a Renee Mox sort of thing, like, oh, Renee and Mox seem to be doing fine with it.
Yeah, but I seriously feel like, and I know she's doing so great with WWE backstage and all that stuff, but I really do feel like when her contract is up, she is leaving too.
I think she's signing a Fox contract.
Well, maybe a Fox contract or going over, because her background before WWE was in sportscasting. Just general sportscasting. In fact, I believe she was a Canadian sportscaster. So, but anyways, so I just feel like she's gonna leave. She might not go to wrestling. She might go back to just regular sportscasting. But I just feel like she's probably gonna leave. But I think anyone who thinks there's still a chance that Rusev goes someplace else is deluded. And just wake up, sheeple.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Why don't you go put a little makeup? Why did you leave those keys up on the table?
You wanted to.
There we go.
Where did that?
Really?
No, I got it. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Who Surge is and everything. Yeah, no, we're good.
That's
The other, and if they do play this way, where Rusev signs a contract under wraps really, really well, but looks like he's left the company, it helps their kayfabe a little bit with this story. I mean, it's still a garbage story, but at least they get some kayfabe there, you know?
And apparently next week's Raw is going to be really garbage because according to some user, the storyline has been leaked for next week's Raw. And guys, guess what? It gets worse.
Wait, let me put on my shocked face. What?
Which storyline gets worse? The Seth storyline?
No.
That was just not well assembled? Because that has a long way to go down.
Well, I mean, that's going to be bad too. He's going to apologize to everybody on Raw. Like, what are you going to do? Like, make him heel or make him face? Like, stop with this. Why are you going to apologize for it?
So yeah,
I'm gonna say no. Make him heel. Make him face. Just make him heel. Just we need Architect Seth back.
Yeah, Seth needs to be healed. Just we talked about it on the FBI show. They need to just flat out turn him heel. And not this wishy-washy is he or isn't he sort of a thing. Just
well, and maybe that's why the apology is probably going to be his final thing. Of then he's just going to be like, you know what? No, I will not apologize or whatever. Hopefully they do something good with.
Yeah, maybe. Here's hoping. Back to Renee Young really quickly. Yeah, she's of French-Canadian descent, born in Toronto, and then for looks like 3 years worked for The Score television network.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Lana. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, Renee Young.
Yeah, Renee Young.
Yep.
I knew that through, I think it was Total Divas, actually.
And so I just feel like, when she's done with her WWE contract, that she'll go do sportscasting again someplace. I don't see her joining Moxley in AEW per se, although they'd be stupid to not offer her a deal because she is really good at what she does. But she also, I mean, she's basically said that she does not like actually being a commentator on wrestling, like color commentator, or play-by-play.
Because there's the oh no's when he does a move that he's the procurer of. So it pops out a little bit during his matches.
But even more than that, like when she had to fill in on SmackDown and got kicked in the face, she was like, "Yeah, I'm never doing that again." So I think now the WWE backstage is more up her alley because it's more of a, for lack of a better term, a talk show. I mean, it's commentary on wrestling and so on, but it's really a talk show.
Well,
and
she could easily be the host on one of those talk shows for football or for baseball or anything like that.
Or even, like you'd mentioned Fox, she could stay on Fox, but focus a little bit less WWE and more overall. Or she could move to a different, like an ESPN, and have them start up a professional wrestling show that covers them all, which would actually be a huge win for all of the non-WWE wrestling shows.
It would be a huge win for fans.
Yes. But anyways, back to my crime, because we keep getting sidetracked. Ooh, look, a squirrel. But yeah, no, we had 2 really good weeks for WWE wrestling and for non-WWE. I'm not trying to discount AEW. They had some great shows as well. But WWE was able to put together 2 really good weeks, except for these 2 blemishes called Raw. And I really think they can fix those, but my worry is that the fix is going to be something that's not going to be popular with a lot of the smarks out there, and I'm not referring to myself, because frankly,
I think about your wife and kids.
No, I think I'm talking about the smart marks.
Okay. Go on.
Because I think, in my opinion, the fix is less Paul Heyman. Because I think most of the horrible, just almost unwatchable stuff on WWE Raw right now just like reeks to me of Paul Heyman idea. And, maybe in 1996, something like the Lana Rusev storyline would fly, but it doesn't fly now.
Well, I mean, it could fly. It's just they're not doing it right. Like, it's just, it's just horrible acting on every
I don't think there's a right way to do cheating spouse. Especially when cheating spouse is...
Well, I mean, the whole Triple H and Test thing.
Triple H and Test?
Triple H Test with Stephanie, with the whole thing, when they're supposed to get married.
That was kidnapping, and again, I don't think that flies today either.
No, that definitely doesn't fly today. Kidnapping, drugging,
right. That definitely.
Marriage under false pretenses. These are all things that are, I mean, I'm going to go out and say it, literal crimes. In like reality crimes,
right?
And so back then there was still enough kayfabe in wrestling that you could, like, I don't know, detach yourself a little bit from it. But on top, like, I didn't really enjoy those angles when they were happening, because I'm like, that's effectively rape, I don't think I like that so much. Can we move past that to, I don't know, a guy with a sock on his hand? Can I watch that instead?
I mean, that still sounds pretty bad. What are you watching, Officer Smarks? American Pie 1 from
Mr.
like
Sacco.
I know.
Jeez.
Fair enough.
Get your head out of the gutter.
Or out of the sock. I don't know.
There's only room for one of us.
No, that's a valid point, though. Kudos, except for everybody except for Raw. Anyone noticed that amazing wrestling match between Tozawa and who was it? Mr. Wow, on NXT. It was Tozawa versus Cruiserweight champ
Leo Rush.
I actually had a conversation with Officer Smarks after that happened, and he hadn't seen it yet, and I called him like literally right after it got over, and I was like, this match you gotta see. Mm-hmm. And Smarks, what was your response?
My only problem with that match is literally we saw 2 of those people in the 3-man kickoff show for TakeOver, and I'm like my biggest problem with TakeOver when we talked about it was they just threw together this triple threat cruiserweight championship match for no real reason, and they didn't give us any reason that either of those people deserved a shot at the championship. And then 4 days later they're like, hey, let's just put 2 of them together again. And I would have, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to take anything away from either of them, because Leo Rush, I watched him in Ring of Honor when he came to WWE and NXT and then went to 205 Live. I was excited, and he's a phenomenal athlete, and Tozawa is phenomenal as well. I don't want to take anything away from them, but we basically just saw that match just with another person in it just 4 days ago. That was my issue, but it was a really good match, and that's why I'm still giving NXT a really good rating for last week, because it still was really, really good. Anywho,
I just figured I'd bring that up because that was actually a conversation that happened really, really recently. And I thought to myself, you haven't seen this match yet. Now that you've seen it, does it change it a little bit for you, or?
Listen, the thing is, I never doubted that it was a good match. My thought process on it is still that I was a little bored of it, just because we'd literally seen it 4 days ago with just another person added in.
That's fair.
And so, however, like, what I would have loved to have seen is Lio Rush come out and face somebody else deserving. Face Angel Garza or someone else. And then have Tozawa come out and challenge him afterwards. And then we could do the match this week, which in a way is probably my biggest problem with NXT right now, is that they don't do enough teasing of next week's matches the week before. And it's actually a WWE problem, to be perfectly honest, that they prefer to announce matches like the day before on Twitter, or a YouTube video, rather than announcing a match on one NXT to take place the next NXT. You know what I mean?
Well, the beginning of the show, when they think they have to hide a storyline that's going to be garbage anyways.
Whereas, I mean, AEW, for the most part, at the end of each Dynamite, you have a pretty good idea of at least 2 or 3 of the matches for the next week already. At the end of AEW Dynamite this week, we pretty much knew that Moxley was going to be facing somebody next week. And if you followed Twitter, you knew it was probably going to be Joey Janela, and that looks like what it's going to happen, So, and I don't know, maybe it's just old-fashioned me, but I just really enjoyed when we knew at the end of a Nitro what at least a couple, including most likely the main event for the next week, would be. And yes, card always subject to change, but it made me a lot more excited to tune in the next week when, like, at the end of one episode, I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to see how this ends. I want to see what happens next week, rather than an episode ends and then you spend 5 days twiddling around and then you just happen to check your Twitter and they have announced that these 2 people are going to fight for, I don't know, reason.
You really love that phrase.
Yes. It describes a lot of things with WWE so much, because that's their reasoning behind almost anything. They're like, these 2 people are going to fight for reasons.
Or cuz.
Yeah, reasons. Anyways, and on that note, I think we will move on to misdemeanors.
Misdemeanors and miscellaneous.
And I will start off. My number one misdemeanor for this week: AJ Styles promo after losing the U.S. title was gold. Was absolute gold. It's charged with being awesome. I don't know if you remember it, but I think it was Kayla Braxton comes up to ask him about what his thoughts were on losing the championship, and it's like a 5-minute long promo, and he almost doesn't say a single word in it. He just looks like he's about to say something, and then looks like he's stifling back tears and disbelief, and then he turns to Carl Anderson and starts to say something, and Carl Anderson just shakes his head like, I don't know, and then he looks like it was just absolutely brilliant. I was rolling on the floor when watching that, and it was so awesome. I loved it. He literally looked like he was gonna cry.
Yeah,
that's my first misdemeanor. I think that's
and I would say there was a misdemeanor on it beforehand, because I thought we lost a little bit of mustard there at the beginning of on the promo, where he's saying, oh, I'm not going to take on Ricochet because I already beat you. And then he says, I'm not going to take on Randy Orton because I already beat you. And then he really didn't have anything with McIntyre. And way to, like, get my hopes up. And, like, I was 3 Viagra into excitement for Drew. And then, of course, Drew didn't win the match. So... Okay.
And you really should move on to Blue Chew. It is effective, faster. You can do it, and you can get your prescription. Never mind.
Hashtag still not sponsored.
I'm sure you've heard it all before. But no, that promo later, I mean, it just cracked me up, and I give AJ all the credit in the world for his performance of it, because like just this guy who's never been known to be without words before, just standing there, and she'd ask a question, he'd look and be like, I was laughing so hard. I loved it. The other misdemeanor, of course, we'd already talked about, Rusev kicking over that truss and charging whoever that was. And then I've got a very serious misdemeanor charge against whoever it was in the pro wrestling business. And I watched the interview. It's from AEW Dark. They did their Undesirable to Undeniable on Shanna. And she was talking about how she'd had multiple tryouts with WWE and thought she'd signed and then hadn't. They wouldn't sign her for this reason or that reason, or just never return her call, and then later they'd bring her in for another tryout or whatever. And then she said, and then someone from the other company. So I don't know 100% if she was referring to WWE at that point or a different company like TNA, Impact, or Ring of Honor. But she said that someone from the other company told her that they couldn't sign her because the camera adds 10 pounds and she was already too big to be on TV. And so I am issuing a serious charge, and whoever told her that she was too fat to be on TV, whoever that was, deserves the book thrown at them. And I'm talking about the heaviest book I can find, and I'm going to find Randy Johnson to throw it.
Where was this
like
exactly?
you're going after that.
This was on live TV?
No, it was. She was talking about her story, and eventually it went on to her saying she was about ready to quit wrestling entirely when she got the call from Kenny Omega that they wanted to sign her to AEW. But she told this story about someone from one of the companies. I don't know which one it was. It could have been Impact, it could have been Ring of Honor, it could have been WWE, but had told her that she was too fat to be on TV because the camera adds 10 pounds and she was already too big. Oh. And anyone with eyes who has watched AEW, watched her show up on AEW, can tell you that A, she is 100% not fat at all.
Right.
And she's also way too good to let size of any sort stop her.
I feel like it was Sandman. Because
yeah, it might have been
Sandman feels about women's wrestling. Jesus.
Oh, man. And the sad thing is I really liked Sandman until I heard that you said that. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Man.
Surprised. Because Sandman does seem kind of misogynistic, too.
Yeah, I just hoped he was smart enough to keep... smart enough doesn't work for Sandman.
No, that's too many beers to the head.
Yeah, or Singapore Kane.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, but that's why you should never give up, though. No matter what anyone says, sorry to be so cliche, no matter what anyone says, you should just do you and believe in yourself, because at the end of the day, no one else can tell you what you can or cannot do aside from you.
Well, and it's one of the things to give, credit to AEW and specifically in this case Kenny Omega, because he really is heading up the women's division there. Ton of credit for giving someone a shot when none of the other places would give her a shot. And I mean, if you've watched her matches, she has been just a joy to watch wrestle. She is phenomenal. She could probably use a little bit better ring gear, but that's going to come with more exposure and more time. But she's just so much fun to watch. Also, AEW apparently is really close to a deal with Chris Statlander, which also makes me very happy. A lot of people would have said that AEW's women's division was probably the weakest part of AEW and probably one of the biggest things that put NXT above them. But they're really making some strides to make it a lot better now. So I guess when talking about AEW's women's division, I do have to mention that in the AEW Dark, they actually had a match between Big Swole and Shayna. And I wanted to give them tons of credit because I hadn't seen a legitimate test of strength spot in a wrestling match in so long. You always see them, they hold up their hand like they want to do the test of strength, but when the guy reaches up to try to do the Texas ring, then they kick him in the
Boom.
face or whatever.
Right.
You know, and you just never see it. But I mean, that was a staple of wrestling when I was younger, where they do that, and then they get the upper hand, and the person would bend over all the way backwards, and then they'd fight back, and they'd come up, and they'd bridge up, and so it's just fun to actually see that. So I wanted to give them a little bit of credit for that too. But what about you, DA Fabe? You got any misdemeanors?
You know, I for the most part have expressed the ones I had. You know, I'm gonna give one misdemeanor out to Kevin Owens for being the second best KO in the industry. Number one. Number two, you know, I gotta give him props. The guy just rolls with bad storylines. And it's not his fault that he gets given bad ones, but man, he just seems to do them so well. He really gives so much to, you know, and they could let him give so much more. Obviously, the prime of that being, you know, what they did with the New Day. It was what, 3 weeks that he turned heel. I mean, it was not, that was underdone for sure. And you could have given Kofi 2 title reigns because of that. I mean, that's the other thing in that particular storyline. You could have had KO win and then KO lose. But man, he's literally carrying the bad Seth Rollins storyline right now. And it's the only reason I want to see what happens is because of Kevin Owens. So props, I guess, on a misdemeanor to Kevin Owens. Way to carry the bad storylines, brother. Agreed.
What about you, Justin? You got any misdemeanors to talk about?
You know what? Once again, it's not really necessarily wrestling. Well, it's wrestling related, but it's not about either one of the shows. It's more on a personal note. I gotta give a misdemeanor to Corey Graves.
Oh yeah. No, that's a crime. That's felony.
Yeah.
I mean, yes and no, because it's more of a misdemeanor, to be honest, just because, like, he mentions he was playing a role, right? So he was playing a role as part of hyping the storylines between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. And so that's his side, right? But clearly, Amuro didn't take it that way. He didn't show up. He didn't show up for Survivor Series. He didn't show up for NXT. Corey Graves ended up apologizing. Booker T even mentioned it on his podcast, and Booker T just wanted him to get better and so on and so forth. But he mentioned that, like, how Booker said it too was kind of like, in a way, people gotta just stop being so sensitive. But he didn't say it in a bad way either.
I think a lot of it is related directly to the stigma on mental health issues just in general. I mean, Mauro Ranallo has a history of bipolar, manic, depressive moments, right? That go back to well before any of the events of WWE.
Right.
But event in WWE by allegedly by JBL. I'll use allegedly because this is a pseudo legal show. You know, definitely play into it. And it just, if you've got someone who's had very public struggles with things like that, you do have to kind of understand that things that you intend to be a joke, to be in quote unquote good fun, do not always feel like good fun to them.
Right.
And can feel very, very real and very personal.
I'm gonna use 3 words to put my stance on this. And it should be, it ends I really think these 3 words end the conversation in regards to whether or not Corey Graves should be significantly punished. And those 3 words are be a star. One of your charities that you own is an anti-bullying charity.
Yeah.
That should have been done under wraps.
Well, and here's, I mean, really, what
issue with the way, and I have this same issue that Corey Graves does. I don't like that Mauro dominates conversation all the time. That said, that should
don't call him out on it.
Yeah. Not that
call
way.
him out on it. Not that way.
Not on Twitter.
And then respond to fans as well. You know what I mean? With just trying to dish more dirt on him. Like, no, like it did feel very personal too. There was some truth behind what he meant to himself about, like, it was some personal truth that he felt for sure, I feel. And then Gray just got all this backlash and he's like, okay, let me step back before,
Well, I think the wrestling phrase that comes into this is work yourself into a shoot. He was doing a work. He was playing the heel commentator, and in his mind, that's what a heel commentator would do in that situation. Yeah. But he worked himself into a shoot. He played the heel so well that it was real to Morrow, and at that point, it's not a game anymore, and it's not a work anymore, and so. Which
also means that Morrow knows that he talks too much on those. I'm guessing Morrow was told to carry that staff because yes, there's a WWE Hall of Famer who has less than 6 months worth of commentary history, and yes, there's a former ROH champion who has a very thick accent and quite frankly isn't all that great at playing a heel commentator, which is his role.
Well, and let's take a step back and remember that Mauro Ranallo is a very well-known and decorated UFC commentator, or MMA. I don't know whether it's UFC or Bellator or whatever. But he was brought into WWE for his commentary skills. That's what he does. That's what he's good at. And so I could totally see them saying, hey, you're the lead commentator. We want you to take the lead and talk as much. And frankly, a lot of people really do love how he dominates. Now, I agree. Sometimes he gets a little bit too pop culture-y. And frankly, a couple of months ago, he said Mama effing Mia for the first time, and it was great. But now he says it at least twice every takeover.
Yeah, that's his thing. That's what he wants to go over, yeah.
And so, you can step back on that. But once again, kind of like DFA was saying, if there was any legitimacy to Corey Graves' issues, they should have been discussed behind closed doors and in a professional manner, not on Twitter, that way. And so, but here's hoping that they can work past it, that Morrow's getting mentally in a better state, because I wish.
Or they should have pre-approved the tweet.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
or you know what though? Maybe Morrow shouldn't have social media though, because at the end of the day too, what are you going to do then? Is just have nothing said about him, good or bad, online in relation to the WWE? Because look, I get it, it's a troubled issue. He has a lot of mental issues and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, what he said wasn't that triggering for us, I guess, which can be very triggering for him. But then what do you do? Like, you're the lead commentator for a top wrestling organization. You're gonna get backlash no matter where you see it.
And
I think it's a colleague putting him on blast publicly.
That's what I was gonna kind of say.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. We put each other on blast on this show, and the reason we do that is because that's what makes the show entertaining. When we put somebody on blast, let's just say that Ollie, who I put on blast tonight, comes back and puts me on blast, and I have some issues, and then on top of it, a whole bunch of other Twitter accounts and whatnot try to follow this, and then they start putting me on blast. There's that certain amount of burden that develops that comes with cyberbullying. Speaking as a district attorney, yes, in my past I actually had somebody over a political conversation that was very, very it was volatile, but it wasn't horrible. I think Smarks, who actually knows me personally, and Justin, who is getting to know me personally, knows I'm kind of a conservative fella, and I'll open up and say that. That said, I got blasted over a political conversation on Facebook once. Not a huge deal. Then they started blasting my kid. The trolls did. Big deal, And Smarks, who also is not conservative at all, would have told you that was too far, and I was pissed. I mean, I was pissed about that. And I think that there's that part of that when somebody takes something too far, you need to understand what you're doing that you're taking too far. And he might not have thought he was taking it too far, but when you're putting a coworker on blast without it being part of a script, because everything else is scripted, right?
But everything is scripted is the thing. Nowadays, everything is essentially scripted.
But that wasn't.
Look at it. But it is, though, because you're old. As WWE wrestlers, you're always technically on, right? There's Seth Rollins playing into the people on Twitter and just trying to troll them any way that he possibly can. They're technically always on because they always have to play that role in that regard. You know what I mean? You don't see them all too often out of character anywhere that they are.
Well, I'll just kind of say here, as someone who battled depression years ago, in some ways you never stop battling it, but my major problems with it were in high school, so quite a few years ago. And I never battled it as hard as
3 years, right?
Yeah, three. That's quite a few, right?
Yeah. Explain your count problem.
3 years ago was 1996, right? Isn't that right? No?
Your math is fantastic. I love your math.
But so
if I was your math teacher, I'd give you an A++.
Yeah, I got a lot of those. I mean, those are the ones that have a line and then two lines coming out, one at the top and one about halfway down.
Yeah, they just forgot to put the one on the right, the line on the right. That's
okay.
All. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I got a lot of those. Those are 8. So, but no. Here's the deal: it's one thing when someone that's just kind of a faceless name on a computer screen says something about you, and I'm sure Morrow can block those out fairly well because they're a faceless name, they're someone you don't know and whatever. It's another thing when it's a colleague of yours, someone who you have respect for, who says it in a way that you said
seen as the number 2 commentator in the company.
Yeah, but says it in a way that you feel it's not, like, even if you're aware of scripting and all of this stuff, if you feel like it's a personal attack, you can't control that necessarily. And that's why, like DA Fabe said, if they would have just had it been an approved tweet, where before it went out, it went to WWE corporate, they read it, they called up Morrow, said, hey, Corey Graves is about to send out this tweet, he's playing a heel commentator, and all of this stuff, he's not actually attacking you. It would have been one thing, and I think it would have been fine. But the fact that it kind of blindsided him and his defenses got riled up, is what caused a lot of the problem, I think. And as someone, like I said, as someone who battled depression, it is really hard to separate reality from fiction when you're battling depression. And this is someone, like I said, I battled it a lot in high school. I was also a theater person, so I was not part of the popular crowd, and I had a lot of trouble with it when people that I saw every day at school and thought were maybe friends of mine or at the very least colleagues in plays and stuff together, and then heard them. Even constructive criticism to a depressed brain can come off as an attack if they're not prepared.
Especially when it's public.
Mm-hmm. And I think that plays into it a lot there. But
as a DA now I'm talking real life, but I'm going to use my kayfabe role as a DA now. One of my primary concerns when I talk to other prosecutors is to make sure I pull them aside and do that independently, because I've seen other DAs do this in public. In other words, in my real life job, I'm in management. I have employees, and I've seen managers who would berate people in public. Amongst those, Officer Smarks and myself, when we work together. That said, that I think is is probably the bigger part of the equation. Again, if it's an approved thing beforehand, hey, can I use you to build a feud between us that would be really cool for talking and stuff at Survivor Series, and we could do this, and it would just roll well, and have that real conversation beforehand. And if he's not okay with it, then you don't do it. And if he is okay with it, then it becomes a kayfabe storyline, even if it's true, which it is. Again, I'm not saying that Mauro doesn't dominate conversation. I'm saying that even if it is true, this allows it to be something that plays. It could have been awesome, but it wasn't, because I'm just going to shoot from the hip. And, if they only occasionally let Jericho shoot from the hip, they should never let Corey Graves shoot from the hip.
But to stop this from devolving into a 4-hour-long conversation about mental health issues, and keep it more on track with wrestling crimes, air quotes, I think we will move on to our brand new segment starting this week. Kind of came up with it over this week and thought, it really deserves to be here.
Commendations.
You can basically think of this as nominations for MVP. But I didn't want to call it MVP because I think each of us can be able to nominate someone for this for whatever reason. This is really more about getting out, maybe performers that really went above and beyond for the week. And I have a feeling that my nominee will get pretty unanimous support from at least one of the two other people on this podcast. My commendation goes to Rhea Ripley. She was basically, in my mind, the MVP of the whole Survivor Series TakeOver weekend, hands down. Both shows, she showed up, and she showed up strong, and you came away from it talking about her, and that is just phenomenal, and she did such a great job.
The name that fits with NXT or with all of WWE for that rough 2 to 3 week period that is as strong as her is Adam Cole. So yeah, I get what you're saying, and in the performances on the 2 pay-per-views, she definitely outshined.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I didn't see. I don't think ratings have come out yet for NXT this week yet because of the holiday and yada yada yada. But I bet when they come out, NXT does see a little bit of a bump in viewers, or at the very least, not as much of a loss as sometimes would be expected. And I think a lot of it probably has to do with people who maybe didn't normally watch NXT, and who caught her on TakeOver or Survivor Series specifically and said, you know what, I want to see her again, and tuned into NXT to see her again. I mean, she was just an absolute star on Survivor Series, and I could totally see that leading to a lot of people starting to give NXT a shot, which is good. And so she gets my commendation for the last 2 weeks, and we'll throw it over to you guys. Do either of you have a commendation to talk about?
Go for it, LeBlanc.
Hey, you know what? It's going to be a weird one, but just the fact that he went from nothing to something, and then hearing Mr. Kayfabe talk about it prior, Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I
Kevin
can't
Owens.
that one either.
And honestly, I wouldn't have maybe thought of Kevin Owens until you had brought up about him saving the whole Seth Rollins situation, but also him saving that matchup for being that extra player for NXT on the War Games. You know what I mean? That was phenomenal. Him being in the matchup on Survivor Series was decent. It added a little bit more flavor between, what's going on. Is he NXT? Is he Raw? It made me more interested in the men's Survivor Series match. And then also him saving Seth Rollins from just a crappy storyline.
Yeah.
You know, like it's kudos, like, and it just goes to show you guys, you don't need to be in that main event spotlight to be a top tier athlete, because he's doing all this just to make other people look. He's not a jobber. You can't say he's a jobber, but he's doing all this to just up the ante, to make it more special than what it would have been without him there, because he's really adding to it. Although it might not seem that way, the only reason why you care for this storyline is because of KO.
In many ways, KO was the Doc Holliday to Seth Rollins' Wyatt Earp. You know, not the main character, not the whole point of the storyline, but do you know anyone who quotes Wyatt Earp line from Tombstone?
No, but Kevin Owens is definitely your Huckleberry.
Exactly. And so, no, I totally agree. KO definitely deserves a commendation. So 2 for 2 here. Who do you got? DA, Fabe?
You know, mine is a returning superstar. You know, she brings some relevance back to the women's title pictures in she made a Fire and Desire match enjoyable to watch. We'll just put it there. Lexi Kaufman, my favorite person to watch on Twitter. You post all the time and it's fantastic. Welcome back, Alexa Bliss. Love to see you back. I don't know necessarily that I'm gonna say you're an MVP over those other two, but awesome to have you back, Alexa Bliss, and please be healed soon.
How long has she been gone?
Well, it was nebulous because they still had her appear for at least a few weeks after she had injured her shoulder.
And she was only back for a couple weeks too after the concussion protocol was over. So, welcome back. That's all I can say. As an MVP, especially, you know, because that was SmackDown. I mean, what a weak show that is right now. I mean, Raw's full of crappy storylines, but SmackDown is full of you know, like we said it ourselves. In terms of Raw was a crap show for 2 weeks, and so thanks for WWE for putting on better shows, except for, you know, even when we talked about SmackDown, it just, nothing overwhelms me there.
Well, and the thing I will give for Alexa Bliss, the thing I will always bring up for Alexa Bliss, and keeping in mind, and I'm an Alexa Bliss fan. DA Fabe knows that. She might be my favorite current female WWE superstar. And so I love the 5 Feet of Fury. But I'll point out, you know, she was nothing in NXT effectively. Like, she got called up to the main roster, and most people didn't even know who she was. So, in my opinion, her commendation really comes down to potentially being the diamond in the rough from NXT. That no one really knew what they had with her. I mean, they tried to have her face for a while as the Sparkle Princess, and that didn't work. And then they had her as kind of a heel manager for Blake and Murphy, and that worked better. But like, she never got a shot at the NXT Women's Championship because she just wasn't known as that. And she gets pulled up to SmackDown and very, very quickly establishes herself as probably the best female heel in WWE.
Yeah, better than Charlotte by leaps. You know, we have yet to see. I think we have yet to see how good Sasha can be as a heel. She's pretty good, but I would say in terms of heels, I would actually put Alexa Bliss as number 4 overall, behind MJF. Existing heels right now. Sorry, I need to make sure I'm clear about that. Because otherwise Miz is in there, and of course Ric Flair's in there, and everything like that. And I'm sorry, I guess I would put her. Well, I'd put her number 4, and number 2 amongst women, with a very close battle with Shayna Baszler for that 3 spot. I really don't think beyond MJF and Baron Corbin is just so damn hateable. God, he's wonderfully hateable. It's not that he's good at what he does; he's just so easily hateable.
No, that's why he's good at what he does, though.
Yeah.
And then, with
MJF's
Alexa Bliss, her wrestling skill was probably her weakest attribute, and it has improved. She might be the single most improved wrestler in ring wrestling over the last.
Thought arm was gonna break when she was given those lariats. So like, they're so small. Good bumps, girls.
Well, and she's learned to take advantage of certain things. Like she's double jointed in her elbows. So she does this spot occasionally where she pretends like her elbow is broken and she pops it the wrong way, and it just looks so nasty up there. And it's just phenomenal. And so, no, I agree with you. I think she deserves a commendation. She definitely is, if anything, the most improved women's wrestler in WWE over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years.
And give her 2 months and she'll be the best female heel. Right now it's just Shayna, because Shayna's had the title forever.
Well, and they appear to be at least attempting a face run with her. We've never really had a chance to see Alexa Bliss face. She had the very short run as the Sparkle Princess in NXT, but that really was more just throwing pasta.
She can't be face though. She's too good of a heel that she can't be face. It's just
I
don't know.
With Justin, this, I mean, we see what Miz is as a face, and it's just garbage. Put him back as a heel.
For the most part, I agree. I'm choosing to give some time to take a step back and let her do what she can do. Here's what it comes down to. In my opinion, most of the best heels in the history of wrestling were that way because they also at least had decent face runs so that their heel turns were more impactful. And the perfect example of that is Ric Flair. Ric Flair, one of the best heels in the history of wrestling. But part of what made him such a great heel was when he would turn face, you would buy into him as face, at least long enough for him to turn heel and blow your mind. And Sting was the recipient of that more often than not.
Okay. So is that why MJF is such a good heel? Because we actually believed he wasn't going to turn on Cody?
In many ways, yeah. I mean, like, I never for a moment thought he wasn't going to turn on Cody. But every time they teased him turning and then he didn't turn, made me think, well, maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. No, he's definitely going to turn at some point. But maybe they're not. And so, yeah, that whole make you think maybe they've turned. Now, I think that's part of the problem with The Miz right now, is they turned him too much white meat babyface, where he's rah, 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 and all this. And they didn't keep that little edge of maybe on him.
I mean, his best face run was when my hand goes up, your mouths go shut. Fans loved him and followed him and liked him. And right before he had his match with Roman for the world or for the Intercontinental title, when he took the buckle off and Roman speared the buckle, and that was earlier this year, or was that 18? It was January of either 18 or 19 that he did that. That was his best face run, was a little bit edgy. This face run just feels like it's so he can be a Miz TV. That's what it feels like.
So my prediction with Alexa Bliss probably is simply this. They're going to have her be face for a while, have her continue to run with Nikki Cross for a while, maybe have them go after the women's tags, win them potentially, and then lose him because of something Nikki Cross does, and then there will be the heel turn, the sudden turn on her best friend, that'll allow her to be heel again.
But isn't she technically heel still?
The reaction and the way they played it off when she came back this week, they're definitely doing a face turn too. I mean, if you just go to YouTube, the WWE channel on YouTube, and they posted a backstage interview, and I'm using air quotes on interview because it really wasn't an interview. It was just Kayla Braxton, I think, or maybe it was Charlie Caruso. I can't remember who it was. One of the backstage women coming up to Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss to say, hey, Alexa Bliss made her return, and how do you feel about it, Nikki? And Nikki is just, the best term for it is nuzzling Alexa, and just absolutely giddy that her best friend is back. and all this stuff. And Alexa's just smiling and hugging Nikki and saying it's just so good to be back. It is total babyface. There wasn't that edge of sneer that she used to have all the time. So they're definitely at least going to try, or trying face Alexa. But, like I say, I'm going to give it a little bit of time because if she can pull off even just a couple months of likable face Alexa, it'll make her heel.
That's what I'm saying.
Nikki so
I don't think it's going to be a couple of months, because as I'm watching this interview, I literally I could still see kind of little annoyed looks that Alexa Bliss is kind of giving, but she's smiling. It's almost like she's helping out her special friend, if you will. And like,
sorry.
Yeah. So like, I feel like it's gonna be like, give it a month, not even, man. Like, she just looks so weird as being like this face kind of thing. She just has a I hate you face.
Yeah. The other side of it, and
that turn happens at Royal Rumble, just so you know.
Yeah, that makes and that gives us a couple months, not
a
4 months, 3 months, 2 months.
We are December,
but in the end, it's still I'm gonna let it happen. And the other reason I think they're teasing a face from her is look at the SmackDown Women's division and realize they are dreadfully low on quality faces right now.
Yes, they are. Because they had to murder the Bayley buddies.
Yeah.
Heel, which still is not working out. I mean, Bayley's not a good heel. I hate saying it, but she's not.
It's very true.
What they need to do is they need to bring Kylie Rae in and have her be the Bayley for a while, and then Bayley get really, really jealous and murder Kylie Rae. And it's not that I want to see Kylie Rae murdered, because I really like Kylie Rae, but that'd be the way that we would hate Bayley.
Kylie Rae's the legit hugger. She's so much better at Bayley's job than Bayley is.
Yeah, she is. I love Kylie Rae.
I do want to say one last thing. It's telling that Alexa is the one I gave an MVP to for returning over a 3-time WWE champion or world heavyweight or whatever titles he's held in Sheamus.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good she really can be. Sheamus, welcome back to you too, buddy. You're not an MVP for returning.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, and he returned via a backstage promo, and that's it.
Deal. Is he the bar? Is he going to be Sheamus a championship contender? Because I would love a Sheamus versus The Fiend match.
Well, I think he's turning heel, so...
Yeah. I mean, he definitely has the old Sheamus haircut, not the mohawk anymore. So I think that plays into it. But yeah, I mean, frankly, his return would have been better off saved for a Royal Rumble return where he suddenly shows up and makes a difference or whatever. Or at the very least, a return in a match where he destroys someone, surprise, like a la, Matt and Jeff Hardy showing up at WrestleMania, something like that, where it's unexpected, and instead of a backstage promo, it's just suddenly, hey, there's Sheamus, he comes out and kicks some ass. I chose not to talk too much about it earlier, but I, just us talking about return did make me think a little bit about one of the snafus that happened for AEW this week. But that was the debuts of the Blade and the Butcher, which fell totally flat on their face due to, I think the more I've thought about it, it really was poor announcing to it that really played in.
I mean, it really, Excalibur treated them like they were just normal everyday names, and JR treated them like, who the hell are these guys? And most of the fans were going, who the hell are these guys? And yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I think you were right when we had a private conversation. A couple of vignettes would have been a good idea here.
Yeah, vignettes, or at the very least, like I was kind of saying, you have Excalibur say, who are these people? And JR I don't know, I've never seen them. And then they beat up on Cody, and then you give one of them a mic, or you give Allie a mic. and you let them in the ring.
Ali pops out, then he realizes who they are. Oh, that's the Blade and the whatever the other one. Butcher?
Which are who, by the way?
Well, that's the deal is, we still officially, according to AEW, don't know who they are. Because that after Ali popped up, they went to commercial break and they never really talked about him later on. They didn't show a vignette later or anything. And that's why I think a promo would have been where Ali gets pulled up and then one of them grabs a mic and says, I'm the Butcher, this is the Blade, we come to protect Ali from whatever.
Rectify the past or whatever.
But just legitimately, who are those wrestlers?
The Blade is Ali's husband.
Yeah, the Blade is married to Ali. That's the most I know about her. And the Butcher is actually, they've wrestled as a tag team in the Indies, apparently. But he is also the lead guitarist for a band, and I can't remember what band at the moment. So
I could sense you Googling there. So.
Yes, you could probably hear me going.
God, this has really been an interactive couple of weeks then. Talk about this. I forgot about that. You're right. Welcome to Blade and Butcher, maybe?
I love his eyeglass.
Yeah, and that's the deal. They've got an interesting look. Although the mask that the Blade was wearing when he came up was a little confusing because at first I thought, is that one of the people from the Dark Order? Right. And then I was like, oh no, that's not one of the Dark Order. And then I was like, that mask kind of looks like a Marty Scurll mask. Not quite the same sort of mask, but I was like, is this going to be, like a precursor to Villain Enterprises coming? Because we do know Marty Scurll's official Ring of Honor contract is apparently up. He's supposedly going to stay around for their next pay-per-view, which is in a couple weeks, but after that, he is going someplace. And I know WWE is probably trying to get him. But I also know that he's very likely going to AEW because all of his best friends are in AEW.
Marty Scurll needs a monocule.
Monocle, yeah. So the Blade is Braxton Sutter is his name, and like I said, he is Ali's real life husband. And then Andy Williams is the name of the guy who's the Butcher. He is the lead singer of the band Every Time I Die and Sutter. He did formerly wrestle for Impact Wrestling. So.
Okay.
But anyways, that's my point. They kind of came out and fell flat on their face, but I think it was mostly due to mishandling on the announcing side and then just not giving them a mic to explain what the heck they are. Because like you said, the entire audience was just kind of silent where they're like, I don't know who these people are. Why do we care?
Well, how many weeks did we get Paul Bearer coming out and saying, "Oh yes, Undertaker, I've got an answer for you," and then all of a sudden it's Mankind, and then several months later he's got another answer for him, or I guess it was Mankind who came out and did his own promos against the Undertaker, and then Paul Bearer comes out and does promos for Kane coming.
By God, it's Kane! It's Kane!
It's gotta be Kane!
So, at least there were those things, and don't get me wrong, I love myself some pop and introduction, but remember Y2J when he came over, it was still 1999, it wasn't 2000 yet, and we saw the countdown, but that was all we ever saw. And then all of a sudden it was Break the Walls Down, and still nobody knew. And still nobody knew. And still nobody knew until the lights came on and his back was turned with his arms out, The Rock standing in the ring, and boom, there he is.
And the important thing there was you can do this surprise thing when it's somebody that people know. When it's a Rock or a John Moxley or a Chris Jericho or someone like that. But when you're talking about an independent wrestler tag team that the vast majority of people probably don't know, you can't do the surprise debut because it makes no sense. Like said, the crowd's not gonna pop for people they don't know. And inversely, they did it a lot better with Wardlow because they did a couple of those vignettes. And then when he showed up as the muscle for MJF, people popped because they're like, "Oh my God, it's Wardlow finally!" Right. So that's the power of those vignettes. Vignettes also, I mean, we're seeing the power of them with the Join the Dark Order vignette, because until this last week, the Dark Order was flat, in my opinion. No one cared, right? Nope. And then they put out this vignette, with the fat guy getting kind of bullied, as he's walking along, and then he stumbles across this advertisements for joining the Dark Order and all this stuff. And now, in many ways, the Dark Order might be the hottest topic in AEW right now. Maybe, arguably. A little bit because there's at least some storyline behind it. Now, if they would have done that before they showed up, I think it would have made a little bit more sense. But they've at least...
Well, at least they're doing something,
They're trying to wrestle. So.
But you're right. I was just listening to the commentating during that whole thing, and JR just seems completely lost. Like, JR, I guess, was not told that these guys were coming out because Excalibur was all like, "Yeah, oh my God, it's the Butcher, it's the Blade, and the Butcher." But even Excalibur didn't even sound confident in who he was saying. Because then JR was like, "What? What? Who?"
I think he was just saying names, because he maybe if he would have said, "Oh my God, it's the Blade, the former blah, blah, blah tag champion, MLW or whatever. I don't care. It's the Butcher, his partner." We would have at least known something about him, but he just threw out some names. And
The Blade!
And then JR, like you said, didn't know. Now, in reality, that's not surprising to me. JR has very publicly stated that one of his tenets to commentating is he much prefers to not know what's going to be happening, so that his reactions are real. He doesn't like to be fed a script. And as part of his biggest problems when he was working with Vince is that, Vince always wanted him to know in advance what was going to happen and then feed him lines over the earpiece. And he much prefers to have his reactions be legitimate and real. So,
with the exception being the Brock breaking the streak, Vince did not let anybody accept. There were 3 people, and maybe 2, maybe Heyman didn't know, but I think there were 3 people who knew, or 4 who knew that Brock was breaking the streak. Taker, Brock.
Well, at this rate, not even Taker. Taker did blame that concussion.
Taker, Brock, Vince, and I think Heyman knew, but I think that was it.
But anyway, I think we could talk forever about things that AEW has done right and wrong and all that stuff. But I think we probably, because I think we're getting a little close to 2 total hours of recording time right now. So we will probably move on to ending this episode. But I did want to just, point out, I think we had some 3 really great commendations. Rhea Ripley definitely deserved it. Kevin Owens definitely deserved it. And Alexa Bliss, it's kind of one of those things you don't know how much you miss seeing her on your TV until she shows up and you're like, oh my God, because she's legitimately a star.
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
And so, but on that note, we will probably try to draw this to a close. As always, I invite everyone out there, if you enjoy what we're doing, or even just tolerate what we're doing, please give us a like, share, subscribe, share us on Twitter so everyone knows about us, or on Facebook, or on MySpace, or Friendster, or LiveJournal.
LiveJournal, yes.
That
Tumblr for why not?
Tumblr, 6degrees.com. These are all going to date me. There's going to be some other old people out there that are going to be like,
I don't even know that one.
MySpace?
Yeah. Yeah. But find us on pretty much any podcast platform that you use. Share us there. even if you don't use iTunes, hop on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review, just like it was Meltzer rating New Japan Pro Kenny Omega Kazuchika Okada match. Give us 6 stars if it'll let you, or 7.5. I don't know. Will iTunes let you go to 12 stars? Anyways, but as always, you can find me on Twitter at Raw and Order WBU. You can find DA Fabe at
DA Vincent K. Fabe.
Awesome. And you can find Justin at
JLB420, and for the podcast, it's Real Talk Radio 8.
Yes, the 8th Real Talk Radio.
That's right. Just like the 8th wonder of the world.
Exactly. You can also find more information about Real Talk Radio at realtalkradio.ca, correct?
Yes, sirree. Marks.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can always, I always talk about this, but go to anchor.fm/Raw and Order WBU. That's our podcast host. You can go on there and you can leave us a voice message so that we can feature you talking about something that you think is a wrestling crime on there. You can also click the little support button and send us a little bit of money so that we can make this podcast better for everyone there. And then you can always tweet at us your wrestling crimes or your fantasy booking, because we'll be recording a new fantasy booking in just a few days, and it would be great to have some other people putting in their challenges as well. But on that note, I think we will close the book on the cases today. Case closed.